The war had finally ended. Silence settled over the battlefield like a heavy blanket, broken only by the distant hum of repair drones and the occasional cheer from the human soldiers who had survived the brutal conflict. The officer, Lieutenant Eric Voss, sat on the edge of a battered crate, letting the weight of his exhaustion press down on him. Around him, the remnants of the Allied forces, a mixture of humans, Xylarans, and a few other species, were already beginning to rebuild, setting up field kitchens, tending the wounded, and clearing the debris of what had once been a chaotic front line. Eric stared at the scorched ground, his mind replaying the last hours of the war. The enemy had been ruthless, a species driven only by conquest, with weapons designed to terrorize and destroy. Humanity had fought back with everything it had: strategy, courage, and unyielding determination, and somehow, through grit and sacrifice, they had survived. The metal pinned to his chest felt heavy not with pride, but with the memories of comrades who would never see the celebrations to come. A soft tap on the flap of the tent drew his attention. "Lieutenant Voss?" The voice was clear, authoritative, but calm. Eric blinked, rising from the crate. He had expected orders, paperwork, or perhaps a debriefing, but he was not prepared for what waited for him. Inside the tent, standing in the faint glow of the lanterns, was an alien woman. She was unlike any Eric had seen before. Her skin shimmered in shades of violet, almost translucent under the light, and her eyes were a brilliant shade of amber that seemed to see into his very thoughts. She moved with a grace that was both mesmerizing and foreign, her every motion precise and deliberate. She wore a simple robe that flowed around her like liquid silk, yet there was a quiet authority in the way she held herself. Eric's hand instinctively went to the sidearm at his hip, though he knew there was no threat. The woman raised her hand slowly, a gesture of peace. "I am Talira," she said, her voice melodic but unfamiliar in its cadence. "The Queen sent me." Eric frowned, confusion and suspicion twisting in his chest. Rewarding him, after the war the rewards had been medals, promotions, and recognition in front of his peers, not an alien woman in his tent. "I don't understand," he admitted. "I mean, I appreciate it, but—" He stopped, realizing how absurd he sounded even to himself. "Why me?" "Because you understand what others often do not. You are more than a soldier, Eric Voss. You have the mind to see strategy, the heart to respect life, and the strength to act when others hesitate. The Queen values those traits above all else. She believes you will understand my purpose." He had fought in countless battles, survived ambushes, led squads through firestorms, and yet this moment made him feel as if he were stepping into a war of a completely different kind. A war of diplomacy, of understanding, of something far more complex than guns and tactics. "Sit," Talira said, gesturing to the crate opposite him. Her movements were elegant, almost hypnotic. Eric obeyed, keeping his eyes on her. He noticed small details, how her fingers flexed delicately, how her eyes never blinked in the same rhythm as his own, and how her voice carried a subtle warmth that seemed designed to calm. "I am here to observe, to guide, and to convey," she said. "The Queen trusts you to recognize the significance of what I represent." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "Your species has won the war, yes, but the galaxy is vast and other threats will come. Understanding, alliances, and trust will be your tools, not just your weapons." He had spent his life fighting wars he understood, wars where victory and defeat were measured in territory, casualties, and survival. This was something different. "You want me to, what? Help you negotiate or spy?" "The Queen offers you a chance to participate in shaping the future, not just defending it. You are to learn from me as I may learn from you. Together, we can ensure that humanity's victory leads to lasting peace, not just a temporary reprieve." Now, in the quiet of the tent, he realized that the true challenges of the universe were only beginning. He was tired, yes, but something inside him stirred, a sense of purpose that was not just about survival. "I don't even know your language fully," he admitted. "How am I supposed to work with you?" "Observation, empathy, patience. These are the tools you have always used, even in battle. Let us begin there." Small nods became sentences, subtle hand motions became phrases. It was strange, and yet, as the night deepened and the camp outside quieted, Eric found himself relaxing. He shared stories of the battlefield, of comrades lost and missions won. Talira listened, never interrupting, yet always responding in ways that revealed a depth of understanding. Her species had fought alongside humanity, but in different ways, with tactics and technology beyond human comprehension. Yet here in this quiet tent, it was the human qualities, courage, ingenuity, empathy, that seemed to resonate most with her. "You adapt quickly," she noted at one point, her voice soft. "It is impressive. Many of my kind would take longer to understand your methods. Yet you see patterns, possibilities, and connections where others see only chaos. Growth, understanding, and alliance are what will ensure the future. You, Eric Voss, are part of that vision." She was not a threat, not in any way he understood, yet she held a power that was subtle, profound, and potentially world-changing. Hours passed, and the distant sounds of the camp faded into the background. Eric found himself talking more freely, revealing hopes and fears he had kept buried beneath layers of discipline and duty. Talira responded not with judgment or opinion, but with understanding. She asked questions, guided his thoughts, and occasionally offered insights that made him reconsider choices he had made in the past. By the time dawn began to filter through the tent's flaps, casting a pale light over the scene, Eric felt a shift within himself. The war had ended, but a new chapter was beginning, one that he did not yet fully understand, but one that held promise, challenge, and perhaps even hope. Talira stood, moving toward the tent's entrance. Her robe flowed behind her, catching the first light of morning. "I will return when the Queen commands," she said. "But remember, Eric Voss, what you have learned tonight is only the beginning. The galaxy is watching, and humanity must rise to meet it, not just with weapons, but with wisdom." Yet he understood now that the battles to come would not only be fought on the fields of war, but in the minds and hearts of those who dared to shape the future. As Talira disappeared into the early light, Eric sat back down, letting exhaustion wash over him. He knew he would not see her again immediately, but the knowledge of her presence, of her mission, lingered in his mind. It was both unsettling and invigorating, a reminder that the universe was vast, complex, and full of possibilities far beyond what he had imagined. And as the camp slowly came to life around him, filled with soldiers celebrating their hard-won victory, Eric realized something profound. The Queen's reward was not a medal, not a title, not even praise. It was a choice, a chance to rise beyond the limits of his training, beyond the confines of his species, and into a future where humanity could truly stand among the stars. He would not waste it. The first rays of sunlight touched his face, warm and promising. And for the first time in a long while, Eric Voss felt ready for what was to come. The morning air was crisp and carried a faint metallic scent from the repaired ships and machinery scattered across the camp. Lieutenant Eric Voss moved through the organized chaos with an unusual sense of purpose. The war had ended, but the aftermath of victory brought its own challenges. Soldiers were exhausted but proud, celebrating survival, while engineers worked tirelessly to restore equipment damaged in the battles. Yet Eric's mind was not on repairs or celebrations. Talira's words from the night before lingered, persistent and unsettling. She was more than a diplomat, more than a reward. She was a key, the Queen had said, to shaping a future humanity had only begun to imagine. He entered the tent she had occupied last night. It was empty, the lanterns extinguished, but the air still carried the faint fragrance of her presence. A scent unlike anything Eric had encountered, earthy yet floral, sharp yet calming. He sat on the edge of the crate, trying to piece together what he had learned. The night had been a strange mixture of discovery and discomfort. A soft sound caught his attention. He turned, expecting the flap to move with the wind, but instead, Talira stepped inside, moving with the same elegance and grace he had noticed the night before. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and she carried a small, polished device shaped like a crystal with shifting patterns inside. "Good morning," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. Eric noticed the faint curve of a smile on her lips, subtle but genuine. "I hope the night has given you thought." "Answers not so much. You have questions, and I will answer them, but first, you must learn to see what is unspoken, to hear what is silent, and to notice what most humans overlook. Chaos is not the absence of order. Chaos is the order you have not yet understood. Humans are clever, brave, and persistent, yet there is a galaxy of minds, creatures, and technologies beyond your comprehension. To survive in this universe, you must learn to interpret what others cannot. Your strength is not only in battle, it is in your mind and your willingness to grow." Talira activated the crystal device. Light patterns swirled inside, forming shapes and images that shifted and danced. At first, Eric saw nothing but color, but as he focused, he began to recognize maps, battle formations, and star systems. "This is intelligence," she explained. Data gathered by my people, refined over centuries. The Queen believes that humanity must learn to integrate with this knowledge. And you, Eric Voss, are the first step in this process. Now you must learn diplomacy, strategy on a galactic scale, and the importance of trust between species. Yet as he looked at Talira, he realized that her presence demanded a different kind of skill, one that was subtle but potentially more powerful than weapons or tactics. For hours, they practiced communication. At first, it was halting, gestures and expressions, sounds and signs. Talira's species did not speak human language naturally, and while she had learned some words, much of their exchange relied on shared observation, intuition, and pattern recognition. Eric found himself thinking differently, noticing small details he had once ignored, the way her eyes shifted when she was pleased, the rhythm of her movements, the subtle cues that indicated her intent. By midday, the tent was quiet except for the soft hum of the crystal device. Eric leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "This is harder than battle," he admitted. Talira tilted her head, a gesture that seemed almost thoughtful. "Battle is obvious, death is clear, diplomacy, trust, understanding, these are invisible. Yet they are often the difference between survival and annihilation." The galaxy was watching, and the choices he made in this quiet tent might ripple across systems he had never imagined. In the afternoon, Talira guided him outside the tent to a quiet clearing. Here, the lessons shifted. She demonstrated her species' approach to strategy, using holographic displays and models of star systems. They simulated battles, not against enemies, but against variables, unexpected events, communication failures, and natural disasters. Eric realized that the same human qualities that had saved lives in the war, creativity, improvisation, empathy, were exactly what allowed them to navigate these simulations successfully. "You are learning quickly," Talira observed. "Your mind adapts. You notice patterns others miss. This is why the Queen sent me to you first. You are not just a soldier. You are a human who can lead and unite species, who can turn survival into triumph." This was not a medal or a promotion. It was a responsibility that stretched across species and systems. Failure could mean more than death. It could mean conflict, mistrust, or lost opportunities for peace. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the camp, Talira turned to him. "We will rest soon. But first, I have something to show you." She led him to a small clearing near the edge of the camp where a sleek ship rested on a landing pad. Its surface was smooth, reflective, and unlike any human design he had seen. "This is a scout vessel," she explained. "It belongs to my people. It is fast, adaptable, and capable of navigating environments that your ships would find hostile. I want you to see it to understand what other species bring to the galaxy. Humans fight, yes, but we survive together." The interior was minimalistic but functional, with controls that reacted to thought, gesture, and subtle pressure. As he explored, Eric felt a surge of excitement. The technology was incredible, but more than that, it represented opportunity, the ability for humanity to not only survive, but to thrive in ways they had never imagined. "You see," Talira said, "the universe is not conquered by brute force alone. Intelligence, cooperation, and trust are just as powerful. Your people have proven that in war. Now you must learn to extend that to peace." They sat in silence for a moment, letting the events of the day settle. Eric realized he had begun to understand Talira in ways he could not have anticipated the night before, not through words alone, but through observation, shared experience, and trust. "You are different from the others," she said softly. "Not because you are stronger, faster, or smarter, but because you are willing to learn, to adapt, and to care. That is what the Queen recognizes. That is why I am here." To shape the future, to ensure humanity's place in the galaxy, he would need to grow, adapt, and embrace new alliances. The thought was daunting, but for the first time in months, he felt ready. Outside, the camp lights flickered against the darkness, shadows stretching across the ground. The celebration of victory was over, replaced by the quiet work of recovery. But for Eric, a new battle had begun, a battle of understanding, diplomacy, and the forging of bonds that could determine the fate of countless worlds. And in the quiet of the tent, with Talira beside him, Eric Voss felt something he had not felt in a long time: hope. Hope not just for himself, but for humanity, for the galaxy, and for a future that he could help shape. The night stretched on, and he listened to the soft hum of the crystal device, the subtle movements of Talira as she prepared for rest. Tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and perhaps new threats. But for now, in the stillness of the moment, Eric understood that this, This alliance, this understanding, was more important than any medal, any promotion, or any battlefield victory. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns and possibilities. And for the first time, Eric felt that humanity could not only survive among the stars, it could lead, inspire, and endure. The next morning dawned pale and quiet, a soft light filtering through the metal frames of the camp. Lieutenant Eric Voss rose earlier than most soldiers, his mind already alert despite the fatigue of the previous days. The lessons with Talira had opened a door to possibilities he had never considered, but there was no time for contemplation. Today, they were leaving the relative safety of the camp. Talira waited outside his tent, her presence serene yet commanding. She gestured toward a transport shuttle at the edge of the landing zone. "We are to travel to the council chambers on Dareth Prime," she said. "The Queen requests our presence. You must accompany me, Eric Voss. This is not only a demonstration of trust, it is your first step in joining her in shaping the future." The enemy had been defeated, yes, but remnants could still linger in the galaxy, and threats were rarely as simple as they seemed. The shuttle lifted from the ground, engines humming in smooth synchrony with Talira's guidance. Inside, the atmosphere was minimalistic but efficient, with controls that responded not only to touch, but also to subtle thoughts and gestures. Eric found himself adapting quickly, guided by Talira's patient instructions. Every movement, every decision was a lesson in trust, precision, and observation. Hours passed in silence, broken only by Talira's explanations and occasional guidance. She showed him how her people read subtle shifts in energy, patterns in behavior, and the flow of information across systems. Eric began to understand that survival and victory were only parts of the equation. True strength, he realized, came from seeing connections, predicting outcomes, and building trust across differences. As the shuttle neared Dareth Prime, alarms blared, startling both of them. Red lights flashed as Talira quickly assessed the situation. "We are not alone," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "An ambush? Sensors indicate an organized group, not remnants, but a strike team attempting to intercept us." Eric's pulse quickened, but he kept his focus. He moved to the console beside Talira, mimicking her gestures as holographic displays flickered into view. She guided his hands, showing him how to manipulate the shuttle's defensive systems. They had to evade, not destroy. They had to survive to deliver the intelligence Talira carried. The next minutes were a blur of coordination and instinct. Eric found himself reacting in ways he had not imagined possible. He anticipated maneuvers, adjusted shields, and rerouted power as Talira guided him through the enemy's patterns. Each strike from the attackers was countered, not with brute force, but with precision and adaptation. Finally, the shuttle broke free from the ambush zone, gliding smoothly into the orbit of Dareth Prime. The planet below was lush, with sprawling cities and glimmering lights indicating thriving civilizations. The council chambers awaited, a place where leaders from multiple species gathered to discuss matters of peace, trade, and defense. Inside the shuttle, Eric finally exhaled. "That was intense," he admitted, his hands still trembling slightly. Talira tilted her head. "Intensity is not always in battle. Strategy, timing, and cooperation carry equal weight. You performed well. Your instincts saved us. That is what makes humans remarkable. You survive, yes, but you also grow." The galaxy was larger, more complex, and more interconnected than he had ever imagined. A council attendant guided them to the central chamber. The Queen stood at the head of the room, regal and composed, her uniform adorned with medals and symbols representing both human and allied victories. She nodded as they approached. "Lieutenant Voss," the Queen said, her voice strong and commanding. "You have proven yourself in battle. Now you will prove yourself in the greater arena of the galaxy. This envoy, Talira, will aid you. Together, you will navigate the challenges that lie ahead. The future depends not only on your courage, but also on your wisdom." "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied, his voice steady despite the nervous energy thrumming within him. Talira gestured toward the council members, introducing him. "This is Eric Voss, a human officer who led his forces with intelligence and courage. You will find that his abilities extend beyond the battlefield." Eric felt the eyes of dozens of species upon him, weighing his presence, testing his demeanor. He straightened, recalling the lessons Talira had imparted about observation and adaptation. This was not war, but diplomacy, and he had to approach it with the same focus and decisiveness as he would a battlefield. The council convened, discussing pressing issues, trade disputes, territorial claims, and remnants of enemy forces that could rise again. Eric listened, absorbing information at a pace he had never experienced before. Talira whispered explanations occasionally, clarifying subtle cues, hidden tensions, and cultural norms. He realized that understanding these layers was as important as any tactical decision he had made in war. Hours passed, and the discussions grew more complex. A message arrived from a nearby system, intelligence indicating that remnants of the defeated enemy were regrouping faster than expected. Some species advocated for preemptive strikes, others urged caution and diplomacy. The council was divided and tensions were rising. Talira leaned close to Eric. "This is your moment," she said softly. "Use what you have learned. Show them that humans are not only warriors but also thinkers, mediators, and allies. Your approach can prevent unnecessary conflict." He rose to address the council, drawing on both his combat experience and the lessons of trust, observation, and communication. He spoke clearly, calmly, and with conviction, proposing a plan that combined defense, intelligence sharing, and joint patrols rather than immediate confrontation. The council members listened, some skeptically, some with interest. Slowly, murmurs of approval began to rise. Talira's presence was crucial. Her nods, gestures, and subtle reinforcements of his points lent credibility to his words. By the end of the discussion, a compromise was reached, a balanced plan that ensured the security of multiple systems while minimizing the risk of unnecessary bloodshed. Eric felt a surge of relief and pride. He had not fired a weapon or led a charge, yet he had contributed to the survival and stability of the galaxy in a way that was entirely new to him. Talira's amber eyes met his, glimmering with approval. "You did well," she said, "not because of strength alone, but because of your mind and your willingness to adapt. Humanity's future is brighter for it." As night fell over the camp, Eric and Talira sat outside their tent, watching the stars shimmer above. The galaxy stretched infinitely, full of unknown systems, unknown species, and unknown threats. And yet, for the first time, Eric felt not fear but anticipation. Humanity had survived war, and now, with allies like Talira, they had the chance to thrive, to lead, and to shape the future. Talira turned to him, her voice quiet but firm. "You will face challenges that no battlefield could prepare you for. But remember, Eric Voss, humans adapt. You survive, you learn, and you grow. That is why the Queen sent me to you first." Now he would survive in a different kind of conflict, a conflict of minds, alliances, and understanding. And he would not fail. The night was still, the camp quiet except for the occasional hum of machinery. Eric thought of the soldiers, the engineers, the allies, and of Talira. He realized that the galaxy was a vast and intricate web, but humans, with their resilience, adaptability, and determination, had the potential to navigate it successfully. And for the first time, Eric Voss felt that the reward the Queen had offered was not just an envoy, not just a lesson, but a partnership. One that could determine the fate of countless worlds and perhaps the place of humanity among the stars. He watched Talira standing beside him, her gaze fixed on the stars. A silent promise passed between them of trust, of collaboration, and of facing the unknown together. And as the night deepened, Eric felt ready. Not for another battle of destruction, but for the larger, more complex battles that lay ahead. The battles of diplomacy, strategy, and understanding that would shape the future of humanity in the galaxy. The next morning brought a tense calm over the camp. Lieutenant Eric Voss woke with a sense of unease he could not shake. The previous days had been lessons in diplomacy and alliance building, but the universe rarely allowed lessons to remain theoretical. The signals intercepted during the council meeting were clear. The enemy was regrouping faster than anyone had anticipated. Talira stood outside his tent as he emerged, her violet-tinged skin glowing faintly in the early light. She did not speak at first, only observing, and Eric knew from experience that her silence carried meaning. The calm before a storm, she had called it once. "We leave at first light," she said at last. "The Queen has given orders. There is a critical installation on the planet Varen, previously occupied by enemy forces. They are attempting to reactivate its systems. If they succeed, the balance of power in this sector will shift drastically. This mission will test everything you have learned: strategy, judgment, and trust." Eric listened intently, mentally preparing for the challenges that awaited. As the shuttle approached Varen's atmosphere, sensors picked up faint movement on the surface. Talira's amber eyes narrowed. "They are aware of us," she said. "They have scouts, expect resistance." The structure below was jagged and sprawling, a mix of organic and mechanical construction, pulsating faintly with energy. It was clear that this place had once been a hub for enemy operations. Now they were trying to reclaim it. Eric activated his helmet comms. "All units, stay sharp. We move in quietly. Watch for traps and signs of activity. Maintain formation." His squad, a mix of humans and allied species, nodded in unison, their eyes reflecting both fatigue and determination. Talira moved beside him, her hands resting lightly on the interface of the shuttle's control panel. With a series of gestures, she activated her ship's sensors, feeding information directly into Eric's HUD. He could see enemy patrols, energy signatures, and potential hazards before they appeared on the ground. It was overwhelming at first, but he quickly adapted, learning to trust her insights without question. They descended the ridge and approached the installation, moving with deliberate caution. The air was thick with tension, each step measured. Eric felt a strange mixture of anticipation and unease. This was not a battle like the ones he had fought before. Here, a single misstep could trigger alarms, endanger lives, or compromise the mission. "Split into teams," Talira instructed. "Humans, take the left corridor. I will accompany your right. Maintain visual contact. We need intelligence on their activities and any active systems." Talira paused, her eyes narrowing. "Sensors indicate multiple hostiles ahead, likely sentries. We can bypass them if we move slowly and use the side passages. Stick to cover. Wait for my signal." As they advanced, a sudden alarm blared. Red lights flashed and the corridors filled with a mechanical hum. Eric cursed under his breath. They spotted something. Talira status. They adjusted their path, moving toward the central chamber where the main control systems were located. The corridors became more labyrinthine, forcing them into tighter formations. Despite the tension, Eric noticed something remarkable. His team was calm, synchronized, trusting his commands completely. The war had forged them into survivors, and now they adapted again under his leadership. They reached a junction leading into the central chamber. Talira's eyes glimmered faintly as she scanned the area. 3 hostiles, heavily armed, energy shields active. Entry will require precision. With practiced agility, he moved into the chamber, neutralizing 2 sentries with non-lethal shock devices. The third turned, startled, but Talira's hand movements controlled a trapdoor beneath the enemy, sending him sliding safely but securely into containment below. The chamber was vast, filled with consoles and machinery pulsating with energy. Eric and Talira moved quickly, scanning for active systems. She gestured toward a console displaying a holographic map. "They are attempting to reactivate a weapon platform in orbit. We must prevent it. Data must be downloaded and secured." He bypassed security protocols, extracting the necessary data, all while maintaining vigilance for additional hostiles. His training, combined with Talira's insights, made the process efficient. As the data transfer completed, a distant rumble shook the chamber. Reinforcements had arrived, more numerous than expected. Eric assessed the situation quickly. "Talira, we need extraction." Now, the enemy forces below were disoriented, unable to track their extraction. Breathing heavily, Eric looked at Talira. "That was close, too close." "That is the measure of success." Below, the enemy regrouped, their attempts to reclaim the installation thwarted. Eric felt a surge of pride, not for destruction, but for preventing escalation. The data they had secured could prevent further conflict and save countless lives. As they returned to the camp, the quiet hum of the shuttle allowed for reflection. Talira spoke softly. "You see, Eric Voss, victory is not only in defeating enemies. It is in understanding, in acting with wisdom, and in protecting what matters. Humanity has proven itself in war, but now you prove it in leadership and foresight." The mission had been perilous, yet it had reaffirmed what he had begun to understand. Humans were more than soldiers. They were thinkers, planners, and collaborators capable of shaping the galaxy's future. Back at the camp, the squad was debriefed and commended for their efficiency. Eric felt a deep sense of fulfillment as he watched them disperse, tired but unbroken. They had adapted, trusted him, and succeeded. That more than any medal was the reward. Later that night, Eric sat beside Talira outside the tent. The stars stretched endlessly above, unchanging yet infinite. "I never expected this," he said quietly. "Not after the war, not this responsibility, and certainly not all of this. Few would expect it because few humans understand the scale of the universe. But you, Eric Voss, are learning. You are adapting. That is why the Queen chose you. He realized that every challenge he had faced had prepared him for this role not only as a protector but as a bridge, a human capable of connecting worlds, building alliances, and safeguarding the future. Talira's hand brushed lightly against his arm, a gesture of reassurance and partnership. The galaxy is vast and challenges will come, but together we can meet them. Humanity will endure because humans adapt, and you, Eric, will lead that endurance. And for the first time since the war had ended, Eric Voss felt truly ready, not just to survive but to guide, to learn, and to ensure that humanity's place among the stars would not only be preserved but strengthened. The night deepened around them, quiet but alive with potential. Tomorrow would bring new missions, new threats, and new tests of trust and courage. But Eric knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had survived, and with allies like Talira and the lessons he had learned, they would thrive. Together, they would face the unknown. The stars above stretched endlessly, vast and indifferent, as Lieutenant Eric Voss stood aboard the observation deck of the command shuttle. The galaxy felt both immense and fragile, and today the balance of power rested in his hands. Talira stood beside him, silent and poised, her amber eyes fixed on the distant planet of Korvath, a world now rumored to be the rallying point for the remnants of the enemy they had fought so hard to defeat. "Korvath," Eric said quietly, his voice steady despite the tension. "So this is where it all comes together." He had led squads in battle, negotiated in councils, and coordinated delicate extractions. But this was different. This was no longer about small skirmishes or defensive missions. This was the culmination of everything: the survival of humanity, the safety of allied species, and the preservation of peace in the galaxy. The shuttle descended into Korvath's orbit. Below, the planet's surface was jagged and hostile, dotted with energy platforms, defensive turrets, and vast enemy encampments. The remnants were numerous but disorganized. They were dangerous, yes, but not unbeatable. Eric felt a familiar thrill. Strategy, coordination, and human ingenuity could turn the tide. Talira placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "Remember, Eric Voss. Strength is not only in weapons. Observation, timing, and trust are your greatest assets. Use them wisely." Eric quickly scanned the terrain. High vantage points, natural cover, and enemy patrol paths all had to be considered. "Split into 2 units, he instructed. "Unit A with me, Unit B with Talira. We flank from opposite sides and converge at the command hub. Timing is critical." Eric's human squad had survived wars, yes, but today they were facing something more complex: alien technology, unknown traps, and an enemy whose unpredictability could rival any battlefield he had seen. Yet as he observed his soldiers moving confidently, he realized that humans had a unique ability to adapt, improvise, and persevere. This mission was the perfect demonstration of that strength. They advanced through jagged rock formations, avoiding patrols and surveillance drones. Eric's HUD, synced with Talira's sensors, displayed enemy positions, energy fields, and weak points in the defenses. Step by step, they navigated the hostile terrain. Suddenly, an alarm blared across the enemy encampment. Talira's voice sounded in his comms. "They've detected movement. Expect immediate reinforcements. Talira, can your systems assist?" They reached the command hub. Inside, the enemy attempted to activate the weapon platform. Eric's mind raced. He coordinated with Talira, rerouting the hub's power to disable the platform while simultaneously defending against incoming forces. The operation required split-second decisions, precise timing, and trust between human and alien alike. Energy blasts illuminated the chamber, but Eric's focus never wavered. He moved with the efficiency of someone who had survived wars and councils, ambushes, and diplomatic negotiations. Each choice was critical, and each action carried consequences for countless lives beyond the chamber walls. Talira guided him through the controls, her fingers almost dancing over the holographic interface. Divert auxiliary power to the shields while rerouting the weapon's energy. Now. His squad surged forward, neutralizing the remaining troopers with efficiency and minimal casualties. Each human move displayed intelligence, courage, and adaptability, a clear testament to humanity's enduring strength. Outside, Talira coordinated with allied forces to secure the perimeter. The enemy, realizing their plan had failed, attempted to retreat, but the combined human-alien squad blocked all exits. Within minutes, the Korvath mission was completed. The planet was no longer a threat. Eric stood in the command hub, breathing heavily, sweat and grime covering him. He looked around at his squad, exhausted but victorious. Then he turned to Talira. "We did it. The weapon is neutralized and their forces are contained. They won't be able to regroup this time. You are a protector, a strategist, and a bridge between worlds." The shuttle returned to camp as the sun rose over the horizon. Eric watched from the observation deck as soldiers repaired equipment, shared stories, and celebrated quietly. The mood was one of relief and camaraderie, a testament to what humanity could endure and achieve. Later, in the quiet of his tent, Talira joined him. The journey had bonded them, and their understanding had grown beyond words. "You have proven yourself," she said softly. "Not because of brute strength, but because of your mind, your heart, and your courage. Humanity's future among the stars is brighter because of you. You've taught me more than any battlefield ever could." It was a partnership, a chance to shape the future, and an acknowledgement that humanity's strength lay not only in battle, but in wisdom, empathy, and courage. Outside the tent, the camp was alive with quiet celebrations. Eric stepped out with Talira, looking up at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly, full of unknown challenges and infinite opportunities. He realized that victory over the enemy was just the beginning. Humanity had survived war, but now, with allies like Talira, they had the chance to thrive, to lead, and to shape the future across countless systems. "You've changed me," he admitted quietly, almost to himself. "Not just as a soldier, but as a person. I understand now that survival is not enough. We must grow, adapt, and protect what matters." The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but it was also full of potential. With courage, intelligence, and trust, humanity could not only survive but thrive. The Queen's reward, once mysterious and unexpected, now made perfect sense. It was not a simple gift, but a responsibility, an opportunity, and a partnership. Eric had been chosen not for glory, but for the potential to embody the very best of humanity. The galaxy awaited, vast and complex, but Eric Voss was ready. He had survived wars, navigated councils, led missions, and learned from an alien ally. He had grown beyond the limits of a soldier, into a human capable of shaping the future of countless worlds. And as he stood there, hand in hand with Talira, he knew that humanity's story among the stars was only beginning. Together, they would face the unknown, and humanity would prevail.